Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Substack Live. I have with me today a legend. Her name is Amy Suto. She is all over Substack. I'm going to read her bio. Amy Suto is a best selling author and a seven-figure freelance memoir ghostwriter. She runs the Substack bestseller How to Make Writing Your Job and other publications as well. And I'm so excited to have you here with me, Amy. I was surprised that you actually accepted my invitation since I'm a small fish compared to you. But I'm so excited and I have so many questions, and I'm sure that the audience are really excited to chat with you. I mean, we already have 10 people joining us live. And for anyone who's watching us, please feel free to ask us questions to learn from the master herself, Amy. So, Amy, thanks again. I think my first question is the bio is the seven-figure freelance memoir ghostwriter. I'm going to focus on the seven-figure part. The majority of solopreneur who do like writing for a living like myself, their ultimate goal is being a six-figure freelance writer. So how did you achieve the status of the seven-figure freelance memoir ghostwriter?
Yeah, so I came out with a book a few years ago that was all about six-figure freelance writing and kind of how to hit that goal. And I think you become a six-figure freelance writer by really, mastering the basics, understanding what is your niche, what is the value you bring to clients, like how do you pitch yourself, and just getting the fundamentals down. And then I think you jump from six-figure to seven-figure freelance writer by going from a really, really great freelance writer to branding yourself as a luxury freelance writer. And that kind of shift all comes in mindset, it comes in salesmanship, and it comes in branding. And so that is the shift. It's not necessarily a big skills jump. I think this is the common misconception a lot of freelancers have. They're like, if I want to go from six figures to seven figures, I have to become Shakespeare. And that's not necessarily true, because it's like
Yeah.
when people are looking to hire freelancers, it's not just about skill. It's about, how is your customer service skills with your client? Do they feel like they're getting something really special? The presentation is just as important as the package. And that's something that a lot of us kind of forget because we're craftsmen. Like, you and I, Natasha, like, we are writers. We care about the written word. We care about how it impacts people. But the clients, they care about that. Like, does this feel special and interesting? Does this freelancer
Mm.
feel like they know what they're talking about? And the branding, that part of it, is something that it kind of comes in that switch, the flip of the switch of, I'm not just an artist. I'm not just a writer. I'm also an entrepreneur. And that's kind of like the part of freelancing where it's like we cringe sometimes with art and commerce, and we're like, oh, these two things should not be mixed. But if you want to make money from being a freelancer and you want to be valued for the skills that you've been cultivating and be valued for your art and also have time to do your own art, you have to cultivate the entrepreneurship side of things.
Huh. So you're saying that to go to a six-figure or a seven-figure freelance writer or a solopreneur, the focus should be on learning business skills rather than technical skills like writing skills or others. So or marketing skill or digital marketing skills, client acquisition. So is that how you moved from actually six-figure to seven-figure? Did you double down on your business skills, or how did that happen?
Yeah, and from the jump, what I realized is that I had spent a long time kind of like coming up in Hollywood as a TV writer. So I was like, I know my writing is good, but like when I was getting started as a freelance writer, I'm like, and I was seeing interest from clients, and it was pretty great. But what I saw is that some of the biggest jumps that I made in my career in terms of income from freelance writing, especially when I was starting to hit those six-figure years, was, that I'll bring it back to one moment where I had like a pretty bad WordPress website. I designed it myself. I was using a template. It didn't look very good. It looked fine. I had like a blog on there and things like that. But then my partner Kyle took one look at it and it's like, maybe you should upgrade this. Like, you should upgrade this. And I didn't have very much money to spend on a website designer, so I was really nervous. I'm like, I don't know if I should do this, but I think I'm going to take the leap and just try and see if this will help. And I spent what then felt like an ungodly amount of money. I spent money on the website design. I spent what money on the headshots, and like I think I spent somewhere between like $3,000 to $5,000. And I was just like, oh no, what if this doesn't pan out? Like, what if I made this investment in my business and it doesn't do anything for me? And that helped rocket me from $4,000 months to my first $50,000 month. And the difference between a website design like was huge because when clients are trying to figure out, I'm going to make an investment in a freelancer, are they worth it? They're taking in a lot of different pieces of your work. They need to see a good portfolio. The writing skills have to be there, but they also need to feel like you're a premium writer. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the branding component is like just in the same way that like if you're going to buy a new car, you're not just going to buy a car that like runs well. Like you're also influenced by the brand and the company and like the type of like the person that is selling you the car also like the salesman. So there's all of these decisions that go into like a purchasing decision and why you buy Hoka's instead of an off-brand shoe. There's like there or a Nike's instead of something else. Like branding is really important in the freelance writing space, and we don't fully realize it until we step into the minds of our ideal clients.
Huh. I think you buried the lead here. So you're saying the minute you updated your website, you your monthly income increased from 5,000 a month to 30,000 a month just by updating your website?
Yeah, I 50,000 from 4,000 to 50,000 a month. And that was a huge jump that I made. And it was over a period of time, but it was mostly in part the biggest change that I made from those 2 points was my website. And that was crazy to me because I was like, oh, maybe this like expensive project that I'm embarking on to redo my branding, like maybe it'll pan out, maybe I'll get some bigger jobs. And I got a ton of work, a ton of jobs from that small change. There were some other things that I did too, but that was like the biggest thing, the biggest project that I did in terms of branding. And so when freelance writers are like they're like, okay, how do I land the high paying clients? It comes to not only doing the fundamentals well, so like having a website, having a portfolio, having
Okay.
good cover letters, but it's also how can you add a little bit of shine to that? What do your ideal clients want to see from you? And how can you really just like figure out like, oh, I can take this up a little bit of a notch. You don't have to go crazy in the beginning, but like once you have the fundamentals, then you can start to play with like really kind of
Mm.
adding that like the extra pieces of branding that will make things feel really high end for you as a freelance writer.
Hmm. That's fascinating. So, in addition to the website, how do you maintain a constant flow of clients? And like I talk to a lot of freelancers, and this idea of famine or feast and client acquisition is like the bane of existence for many of us, including myself. So, do you do outreach via like LinkedIn or Sales Navigator? Or are you at a point where just clients come to you and you just turn them down? And how did you start and how did you reach that point if that's the case?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky that in this stage of my career, I have more clients than I can possibly take on reaching out to me, and I'll explain how I built that in a minute. And that's part of the reason why I even started Make Writing Your Job and the Writing Job Board is because clients were coming to me and I'm like, this is not a right fit for me. This is not like you're not looking to hire me. But they're like, but who can you recommend? And I'm like, oh, well, I have an amazing community of writers on Substack. Let me just share your job with them and then just forward you whoever applies. And so
Mm,
that's what kind of kicked off the job board is because I get calls from clients like 3 to 4 times a day and they're like, please help me. And I'm like, I'm not your girl, but I know some great writers who are. And so that's kind of what started the job board and why we're able to connect writers with really cool jobs. Because these clients who are hiring memoir ghostwriters are not looking on LinkedIn. They don't know how to post a freelance job. They're not on the platforms. And so that's part of the reason why I started that because I'm like, oh, perfect. I can help people. But in order, like if you're a new, like if there's somebody who's watching who's a new freelancer and they're like, how do I get clients? Like, how do I break out of the feast or famine cycle? Then it does start with this kind of like beginning process of a massive amount of just outreach. And this is like the unfun part of the beginning, like part of your career where you probably are on these freelancing platforms like Upwork and Contra. You are probably subscribed to a writing job board like mine or some of the other ones out there. And you should be just getting in the reps and submitting to job after job after job. And this can feel like this is the most challenging part of freelance writing and where most freelancers fail because they are sending out jobs and they're like, or job, applications to different freelancing jobs and they're not hearing back, or they're getting some low paying jobs and they're like, I don't understand why I'm not, why writing isn't my job yet. And so this is the part you have to muscle through. And if you're not landing jobs as a freelance writer, it could be because your portfolio doesn't have the right samples for the types of jobs that you want to land. It could be because when you're hopping on discovery calls, you're not kind of customizing your pitch to that particular client and really kind of understanding the client's needs. It could be because you just like missed the job by a day and they already hired somebody. And so there's so many factors that come into just like getting past that early stage. But once you start building the momentum and clients start working with you and then they keep hiring you or they refer you to other people or like the momentum just builds, then it's like a runaway ship. Then you become overbooked and have to keep raising your rates to be able to, scare away clients. And that's like where everybody wants to be. And then the other piece of this is especially for memoir ghostwriters and other freelancers where it's like there isn't a lot of like referrals in between like clients because you're a ghostwriter, you're anonymous, then you have to really double down on building things like your website and your portfolio and your freelancing presence. And I'll be honest, I've never had success cold emailing a client to hire me as a memoir ghostwriter. I've only gotten inbound leads because I find that if I reach out to somebody, I'm like, hey, you should write a memoir. They're like, no, thank you. Like, I don't want that. Or even some of the people that I connected with, like one thing that I did is that I reached out to every single entrepreneur who has ever been on Shark Tank. And I'm like, you might want a memoir. And I had some great calls with some of like my idol entrepreneurs that were on Shark Tank. And I love that show. But they like none of them like were in a position where they wanted a memoir. Or they felt like they were too young. And so I found that for memoirs, you got to put yourself out there as a memoir ghostwriter and be findable for people to find you, whether that's posting on LinkedIn. For me, website SEO is something that is huge and something that I'm going to cover in a class on my Substack at some point. But I think it's really about creating ways for clients to find you. The one way that I did find a lot of clients when I was a freelance copywriter was cold outreach. And cold outreach does work for content writing, copywriting jobs, and things like that where there's a lot of companies that just need copy and content done and they need a great Substack ghostwriter. They need a great team member to jump in. So sometimes outreach does work and there are different tools that you can use to make cold outreach easier on you as a freelance writer, but it is still definitely a challenging part of the job. That's why I think it's really important for writers to build nets to bring in incoming clients and to be able to build referrals so that you can just like have the leads come in and just hang out and not have to do any prospecting.
Hmm. So, what are the tools for cold outreach that you
Yes.
mentioned?
So one of the tools that I used quite a bit was called Growth List if you're in the tech niche. And so back when I was doing tech copywriting and content writing, I would use this tool called Growth List and we just get the emails every single week of every CEO who has ever raised money like in the last 5 days. And then so you just like
Okay.
and then you just cold email those people. And there's different cold email software solutions. Now it's going to be different because I haven't done this in a while since I'm not in copywriting anymore. But back when I was in freelance copywriting, like I was able to scale to, I think in copywriting, like 350 and then eventually $750 an hour with these copywriting clients that I cold emailed because they had just raised a bunch of money. They were working in tech and they needed a copywriter, content writer, or a newsletter ghostwriter for the different platforms that they had to suddenly make a ton of copywriting for. I did a lot of LinkedIn ghostwriting too. And these CEOs know that now more than ever, they need constant amounts of content pushed out everywhere. And while some writers use AI to kind of help with this, like creating this content, it still has to have like a human writer thinking and strategically about how to capture the founder's voice, how to put out the right messaging. So the copywriting and content writing jobs that are out there, if you're able to lend a little bit of strategy to your ghostwriting, you're going to have so much work. You're going to be able to charge so much and have so much work because there's such a high demand right now for ghostwriters, especially in the tech space where these founders are just like, please help me. I raised like $15 million. And I just need to hire like a ton of ghostwriters to just write my LinkedIn, just write my Twitter, just write my Substack.
That's a good tip. It's called Growth Reach. The
Oh,
tool.
growth list. Yeah, growth
Growth
list.
list.
Yeah.
Growth list.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's so many other tools out there too. The growth list is the one that just sends you the list of emails. And they're great. And the founder is also really great of growth list too. So there's a lot of tools like that where depending on your niche and your industry, you can just get lists of emails and figure out who to email and be like, hey, like this is I'm a writer. I like your company. Like, let's hang out.
So I'm curious about how you got into memoir ghostwriting specifically. And I have to admit, I got a bit of a FOMO watching, looking at your Instagram. I'm in Italy because my client did me there. And I was like, who are these clients that fly here all over the world? Like, how did you get how did you get into ghostwriting, memoir ghostwriting, and how did you find these clients that are actually willing to pay you to see them instead of doing it via Zoom, for example? Like, why, And I'm just curious how that happened.
Yeah, so these clients find me through the same channels that are available to everybody. So, Contra and Upwork and other platforms, and also through my website. And so, this is why, as a freelancer, it is so important to make yourself findable. And when I say findable, I mean treating everything like a search engine. And so, a lot of people look at freelance platforms like Upwork or their website and being like, "This is just where I put my work." That's kind of like the first way when you're just getting started to think about these, but eventually you have to think about LinkedIn, Upwork, Contra, any platform you are on as a freelance ghostwriter or freelance writer as a place where somebody can find you and work with you and understand what you specialize in. So putting freelance memoir ghostwriter at the top of your LinkedIn profile, making sure that like maybe even adding it to like your name. Like, there's so many different like sections that you can make sure you have the keyword of what you do. And some freelancers specialize in freelance memoir or freelance business book ghostwriting, or whatever you specialize in, making sure you understand the
Hmm.
keyword that you're going after and putting that everywhere and because when you're putting yourself in the shoes of your ideal clients, they're going to be searching on Google or wherever. I even had one of the clients who posted on the job board found me and us through ChatGPT. They were searching on ChatGPT for freelance
Yeah, I
memoir
see.
ghostwriters, and they hire somebody from our job board. And so it's like people find ghostwriters from all different places, and the goal here is to be findable and to also not just be findable, but put your best foot forward on the internet in the way of personal branding. And the reason why, like, I've had clients fly me out to places like Vienna and be able to, and Canada, and be able to like, meet their families and their business associates and have these like really incredible experiences is because my branding is very on point for what they're looking for and I'm findable. And I think that that's the one thing that a lot of writers like, we have like a million different things to do as freelancers. We have to build our portfolio. We have to set up client meetings. We have to do outreach. It can feel like everything is just requiring our attention, and it can be hard to focus on the thing that will bring clients to us rather than us having to constantly go find them. And part of that is building a great website with SEO, building up our freelance platforms, our social media platforms with that SEO in mind to make us findable, and
Hmm.
trying to figure out like, where are my ideal clients hanging out? Where are they looking for their perfect fit freelance writer? And how can I put myself right in front of them and be everywhere in front of them? And that's the thing that I figured out. And I'm going to continue to teach how I've done that on my Substack. But I think that like it is the hard work and it's taken me time to learn how to do that. And that's why I'm trying to distill these frameworks for other people to learn much faster than the way that I did. Because it's so much better when you're able to go from just prospecting to being able to have clients just find you directly.
Hmm. And why memoir ghostwriting? How did you get into memoir ghostwriting specifically?
Yeah, so it was kind of on accident. So I started at the beginning of my career. I was just doing blogs for one of my clients, and they were like, "Oh, like you've written all these blogs about my life story. Like, why not just turn them into a memoir?" And so I kind of like fell into it, and then from there, I started doing several other memoirs. I went to one of my clients' family reunion on this like beautiful like vineyard, and like where she like found out her father was not her biological father and brought in her new family. And then I was there in the middle interviewing everybody while there were tears and people being confused and fighting. I was like, but it was also a beautiful moment because people were like, wait a minute, this is so incredible. And so I love the drama of memoir ghostwriting. I love the fact that you're being put in a story that is just unfolding all around you. I love the being able to help capture a story for somebody who can't write and who can't put it together or can't see themselves clearly. And I think that the art of memoir ghostwriting is that you, as the ghostwriter, are able to be that second opinion and be the truly unbiased reader for your client, and be like, hey, like, I think your story needs to be presented like this so that your audience will really absorb it better. And anyone who's writing writing a memoir knows that if you are writing the memoir yourself, you are so biased. You're so caught up
Yeah.
in your own thoughts. You need that other person, whether it's a ghostwriter or even just a good editor. You need to have that person to help you because otherwise, who knows like what people will find interesting about your life. So having that extra partner is so key. And I also bring my background from being a TV writer in Hollywood to ghostwriting and adding the structure that is needed to turn books into not just like a rambling story of somebody's life, but something that is a page turner that's compelling, that has that really great story structure.
Hmm. Okay. So, do you think ghostwriting is it your biggest income stream, or what is your biggest currently? What is your biggest income stream?
Yes, ghostwriting, absolutely. And the reason why ghostwriting pays so much better than so many other niches is because a client is publishing a book because it's going to lead to speaking gigs where worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's going to be leading to them booking coaching clients, them, achieving their business goals, or there's someone at the end of their life looking back and they're wanting to capture their legacy. So ghostwriting for memoirs specifically is very lucrative because people who are writing this, the value of a memoir is truly priceless. And that's
Hmm.
why memoir ghostwriters like you and I get paid so much more than sometimes what, back when I was a freelance copywriter, I was very well paid, but it's different because copywriting is to help a business reach an ROI of a goal. Memoir ghostwriting is to help somebody make sense of the complexities of their life story and also pass on their book for future generations. And so it's like very different and very beautiful. And also it's hard to kind of say like, this is a book that is successful. And I judge success for a memoir as not only something that will appeal to readers, but is also something that will strike a chord emotionally with my client and feel like catharsis after we're done. And that's kind of a hard thing to track and a hard thing to pull off because as ghostwriters, we also have to write in our clients' voices. And that's
Hmm.
why this is such a lucrative career. It is something that is really hard to hire for our clients. And when they find the right person, and then it's just like magic. But I met so many people who've cycled through some clients who've cycled through multiple different freelance ghostwriters and are frustrated because they can't find the right person. And so it's like that's why I'm really excited to get them to our job board. I'm like, look at the amazing writers who are waiting for you here on Substack because Substack has the best writers.
True. Okay. So, how many projects do you accept a year, and how long does it take you to finish one memoir? And do you hire writing assistants to help you with all these projects?
Yeah, so for me, it kind of depends on the year. Like right now, I have some developmental editing projects that I'm finishing up. So those projects take up some time as well. But I don't like to take on more than a small handful of clients. And like I said, it kind of just depends year by year. And some projects are much bigger than others, requiring travel. And like sometimes I'll be like just given like a whole stack of like court cases, or I have clients to send me like boxes of books. I'll just like open my front door and there's like four huge boxes of like books that they want me to read. And so some things are very research heavy, some things are lighter. So I try to balance my schedule with having a little bit of a lighter memoir and a little bit of a more kind of like challenging memoir. So I don't try to like stack them too much. I try to stagger my projects so that they start at different times. And then for me, like I like working, like I like making sure that I'm the one working on the draft. I know other writers have like more of like an agency set up where they have a whole team around it, but
Yeah.
for me, I really like having the intimacy of it being me and the client. And I think that that's also the fun part about being a memoir ghostwriter is that you're kind of like part therapist, part creative, part, all of these different roles. And I think that that's such a cool space because I learn so much from my clients and I get to really experience these lives that are just like really beautiful and different than my own. And I think that that's kind of like the fun of the ghostwriting is being able to step into somebody else's shoes and learn about their lives.
Mm. Okay. This is so you're like what, 2 or 3 maybe a year, if you
It
want to put it
depends.
on. Okay.
Yeah, it depends. Like it's hard to put a number on it because like I said, like I'm finishing up this developmental edit that I was working on this morning for this book that's beautiful and I can actually share it. It's not a ghostwriting project because I'm just doing edits. And it's a beautiful story. I don't want to get into it because I'm just gonna like talk about it for the rest of our time. But so when I'm working on projects like that where I'm giving the writer notes, and that's more of a like I don't do that as much anymore. But I made an exception for this client because her story is beautiful. So I do a few developmental editing projects in between or in addition to ghostwriting. So it just depends on the year in terms of how many projects I take on, but very few.
Hmm. Okay. So I am curious about your Substack. newsletter. You have a lot of subscribers, and you have, I think, 1,000 paid subscribers from my research. Yeah, and so how did you manage to build the Substack community? I mean, you mentioned your website, and how did you manage to transfer? Because your website was focused on clients. Then how did you, build a community of writers on the side while you were chasing clients?
Yeah, so I've been posting on I have a like a blog on amysuto.com that I've been posting on for like since I was like 12, where I was writing about the journey of being a writer and like kind of the background of being a writer. And so that was like kind of my initial foray in writing about this experience of being a freelance writer. And so I decided to move to Substack 2 years ago. And I decided to make that jump because I really saw that on Substack there wasn't a lot of like people talking really openly about freelance writing and what it's like to scale a freelance writing career to 6 and 7 figures. And I really wanted to kind of like shine a light on the part that nobody wants to talk about, which is like, how do you actually make writing your job? And the reason why we don't want to talk about it is because money is taboo, and it's this kind of like
Yeah,
experience with freelance writing where it's like, but the thing that got me into freelance writing was this awesome blog called The Freelancer's Year. It was run by Lindy Alexander, and she's a travel writer. Incredible. And what I love about the blog is that every month she would post her income report and she would share what she was making. And that actually got me into freelancing because I saw what was possible from her. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Like I can actually get paid from being a writer. Like I don't have to go learn how to be a developer or a
yeah,
coder. Like this is
yeah.
so cool. Or I don't have to go to law school. And so I think that it was really important to me to hop on Substack and share what's possible as a writer so that other people can see it's possible. And it's so cool because it's like just yesterday I got an email from somebody or a post on Substack that they tagged me in where they landed their first freelance writing job from the writing job board. And that was so cool. And I get messages like that all the time. And the reason why I built this community around freelance writing and how to make writing your job is because it's something that there isn't a lot of good up to date advice about what actually helps writers get work and get paid and also not lose your soul and to also still stay in touch with our creative projects. And I think that that's something that nobody is really like fully kind of diving into in the way that I wanted to. And then about 9 months ago, I made the writing job board, which went live, and that was the thing that I was really excited that has been working so well for people, and it's been awesome to see people get their first memoir ghostwriting assignments, their first freelancing assignments, their first articles accepted by different publications, and so that has been like something I'm so grateful for because it also allows me to help the clients that are coming into me wanting help from writers that I'm not a good fit for. And so it's kind of like this ecosystem that works out really well. And
Mm,
people found my Substack from my blog, from social media, and from like a bunch of different places, from LinkedIn. And so I think that for people who are wanting to grow their own Substack, it's about just putting yourself out there and building a personal brand. And I know that that sounds icky sometimes when people are like, oh, build your personal brand. And people aren't brands, but we do have to figure out how to put ourselves out there in a way that is, feels authentic to us and what we're able to offer people so we can bring them into our worlds and our communities.
mm. So there's a comment here from Joe says, "Love the right job board. Thank you for creating it." So I am a subscriber. I'm a paid subscriber to the job board, and I love it. So since I'm a journalist, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. So buckle up.
Please.
So I applied to job boards. I'm subscribed to yours and another one which is like focused on the Middle East because I was originally born there and I have a lot of contacts there. What I notice is, and I heard that criticism before, is that many people apply to these jobs. So your chances, especially if these job boards keep growing and growing and attracting more subscribers, then like one job would get like thousands of applicants, and your chances becomes really like lower than if you use like referral methods or outreach. So sometimes like I think to myself, what is my time best spent? Responding to a job board or doing cold outreach to a client that I think would benefit from my services. So I am in this dilemma, and I reached the place if there is any job board like they said test or not, I'm not gonna do any tests. First of all, I feel like I'm too senior for tests, and I don't have the time for that. So, and most of the tests are unpaid, anyways. So, what are your thoughts about this devil's advocate
Of course.
question?
No. And Natasha, you're totally on the money with not accepting paid test tasks. I think that
Yeah,
paid or sorry, unpaid test tasks,
unpaid,
even sometimes
even
paid
paid.
test tasks. Yeah.
Yeah,
If it's a test task and the client's unsure about you and they haven't read your portfolio, it's like yeah. I'm totally with you. I think that when it comes to being freelance writers, we have to be careful about how our energy is spent. And I think you're totally
correct.
right with that. I think that when it comes to, where do you apply to different things? Like when I was getting started as a freelance writer, and even when I was kind of like mid-career as a freelance writer, I would apply to 40, 50, 60, 70 jobs a day. And I had like
Oh,
my different
geez.
frameworks, the different things that I would do. Like I had like a system. And then I would stop the moment that I was fully booked up with clients. I would completely stop my outreach. And then I was fully booked up. And I would do that again and again and then when I had too many clients, I would just raise my rates. And so I think that it depends on like what your system is to being able to bring clients into your world, because at the same time that I was doing outreach, I was also building my personal website, creating ways to be found by my clients so that at this point I don't do any cold outreach. I do not reach out to clients whatsoever. They just find me. And so I think as a freelancer, we have this like these stages of our careers where we're trying to figure out where is my time best spent. And I think that job boards are great in some ways because often a lot of clients who are hiring, they're looking for something specific, especially in the memoir ghostwriting space or the developmental editing space. A lot of the jobs that I feature on the job board, like we had a speech ghostwriting job recently, and that client was looking for something very specific. And so even though there might be a good chunk of writers who apply, you might be the perfect writer for this assignment. And it's also a personality fit with a lot of the ghostwriting work out there, is that the client wants to work with somebody whose personality they mesh with and who they like. And so there's so many factors that go into hiring, especially for ghostwriting, both for Substack ghostwriting, speed ghostwriting, things like that, that I think that you kind of have to just get as many shots at the goal as possible with jobs that feel like they're the right fit, and just kind of see what happens. And so I know that that like is an unfortunate part of like the job of like building up like that client roster. And I think that that's kind of like the price of admission, is like just like submitting a ton. And I think that like that is like part of the process that people don't like to talk about because it's not glamorous. And I think that that's like I totally understand. And so it's about trying to kind of like get as many shots on goal for the types of writing assignments that feel the most exciting and aligned to you, while also building up those funnels for clients to find you without you having to apply to a thing. And then as your funnels continue to grow and clients are able to find you, then you never have to apply to any job ever again. But I think that that is like a very like rare thing. And I think that it only happens if you're able to be really specialized and build the funnels in a way that is like really deeply like ingrained and like your ideal client, how they find you. If that makes any sense. I hope that that helped with the devil's advocate argument, but I'd be curious to hear if you
Yeah,
have any other thoughts.
yeah. I mean, I think what you're telling me is basically to increase my the odds by keep applying and be more kind of niche specific to up your chances. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is kind of like it's trying to ride the wave, because it's like when you get to a point where you're like, I'm totally booked up, I have too many clients, that's a great time to raise your rates. And so that's how you get leverage to
Ah.
raise your rates as a writer. And you want to get to the point where you have too many clients. And if you have too many clients, then you're able to like double your rates. And then even if you lose half of your clients, you're doing less work for more money. And so that's something that I had a writer who did that math, because I break down that math in my book Six Figure Freelance Writer of like, okay, even if you have too many clients and you double your rates, but you lose half your clients, you're actually in a better position. And one of the people who read my book did that math and then like doubled her rates, and then most of her clients stayed. And so she was making a lot more with her current set of clients and nobody left her. And she was like, wow, okay. And I'm like, yeah, you clearly didn't raise your rates enough. And so I think that that's kind of the thing that people have to get to is freelance writing, to like be able to raise your rates in a way that will create an abundant lifestyle, is to be able to get as many, be able to find as many awesome clients that you're excited to work with as possible, increase your odds of landing those clients. And then once you have those clients, continuously raising your rates until you hit your ideal hourly rate based on the number of hours that you want to work, how much money you want to make, and how much free time you want for your creative projects. Because that's kind of the balance that you want with your life as well. Not only to do great work for clients you really love working with, but also to carve out time for your own creative projects as well.
Hmm. Okay. So, We talked a lot about success and, and you're doing amazing. And I'd like to hear a bit about the struggle. And were there times where you like, F it, I'm quitting all of this. I want to go back to a stable, quote unquote, 9 to 5 job where I don't have to hustle. And have you, like, I'm sure you had low points. And if you're open to sharing these low points and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think the biggest low point that I talk about quite a bit is when I completely burned out and hit zero of my energy and like what I was able to do. And I basically had taken on too many clients. It was like my first full-time year freelancing. I was so in a scarcity mindset of being afraid that everything was just going to evaporate that I pushed myself to a brink of being so stressed out, not having good systems, saying yes to everything, not setting high enough rates. And I got so stressed and so overwhelmed that I developed an autoimmune disease. And this was in the
Mm,
beginning of 2021. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I suddenly had a pile of medical bills. My fingers were swollen and hurting to the point where I couldn't type. And I just looked around and I'm like, I am full time freelance. I have no other job to go to. And I have to make this work, or else I'm going to be drowning in these medical bills. I'm going to not be able to get through this. And that was the moment that I was like, okay, I have to reevaluate and figure this out. And I also credit my partner Kyle, who just joined, who he basically helped me reevaluate the systems when I was doing wrong. He's like, you got to turn off all the notifications on your phone. You have to figure out a digital detox. You have to figure out how to raise your rates higher with clients that would hire you at double what you're charging. And with his help, I was able to go and double my rates and work half the time that I was working. And slowly over the period of years, I was able to work less, have a better work life balance, find a lot of success that I didn't think was possible, and then also put my autoimmune condition into remission. And it was a huge journey, a lot of tears, a lot of pain, a lot of low points. But I think that for all of us, the things that getting into that low point is sometimes the fuel that we need to reach the life we've always wanted.
mm. Well, sorry to hear about this. I'm glad you're feeling better. What kind of system do you implement now to automate your workflow? Like I've been hearing all these AI tools like Motion and every time I get like I I'm an impulsive buyer and I go like buy this tool and buy that tool and then I ended up like I look at the bill, oh my God, what is this? Cancel this tool. No, you cannot cancel. I mean, it becomes a mess. So I'm curious what kind of tools you use for automation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my favorite system tool, it's not an automation tool, but it's free. My favorite thing is using my calendar app like a to-do list. And I love this because it forces you that you're like, oh, I have to do this. It forces you to put it on the calendar and
Okay.
allocate a certain amount of time to it. So my calendar is not just filled with like meetings that I have to do or other stuff. It's also filled with I need to, write this Substack post. I need to do this here. I need
Okay.
to send this client a proposal. So when I have like a lot of things to do on my calendar, all I see is like to-do lists on my calendar. And I'm not allowed to schedule anything else on the
Mm,
day until I finish my to-do list. And I think that scheduling time blocks for the tasks that you have on your to-do list forces you to be one, realistic about how much time do I actually have? And then two, if you're able to like blast through a bunch of tasks that you thought were going to take you 3 hours in 1 hour, it feels great. And so I think that thinking about like for what tools work for you, you don't need a shiny automation tool to be able to have a better system. Sometimes a better system is turning off all notifications on your phone except for text messages from the people you love. And
mm,
sometimes good systems is just, figuring out that every day at the end of the day, you promise yourself you're going to get to inbox zero. That's like a really good system. So there are automation tools that can help with that. Like I love Superhuman for my inbox. I use that. So there are like tools. I'm a big Notion lover. I'm currently working on a Notion template that I'm going to share with everybody on my newsletter. That's going to have like the way that I schedule my weeks and like have like set my most important priorities. That I also track different projects and things like that. So those tools are helpful, but I think that it's really getting to the basics of being like, how much time am I allocating to what? And how does that reflect my priorities that I need to get done in order to grow my business versus,
mm,
doing the things that are like not very important. And my favorite other tool that's free is called Toggle. and I just use it to track all of my time every day. And then so that way I can look back on last week and being like, I spent 15 hours on email. What was I really doing with that time? And I feel like Natasha, you might feel the same where you're like, what where like sometimes with freelancers it can be like, what did I really do last week? And it like was it all just sending invoices or like responding to
Yeah.
emails that didn't actually move anything forward?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's the energy. Like,
Mm.
and I also have 3 kids. I'm not sure if you have kids, but that sucks up a lot of your time. And for me, it's like I call it the red green like energy zone. So my green energy is like in the morning, and that's what I get. And then I get the late shift at night after everyone goes to sleep, and that's when I catch up. But everyone has different circumstances. But so your newsletter, you have the job board, and you also mentioned that you do training, like you mentioned. So the training, is it part of the paid newsletter, or is that something extra you charge for? How do you divide those two things?
Yeah, so we have two different pieces or several different pieces of the newsletter these days. So with an $8 a month subscription, that includes the job board and also ClassStack. And so ClassStack has been the thing that I'm so excited for, and that we've done 2 classes so far already that you can watch the replay of as well. One class has been on building a portfolio, which is the question I get the most because it's the bedrock to a great freelancing career. So how to build a portfolio that not only showcases your work well to clients, but also if you don't have any clients, how do you build that portfolio? And so that's the first class we did. And then the second one was all about memoir ghostwriting and how to build your memoir ghostwriting career. So those are the 2 classes we've done already. And then this Sunday, I'm actually doing a free freelancing 101 class that everybody is invited to. And that's going to be about all of those foundational elements of being a freelancer that are really important to get right. And so those are the classes that I teach there. And then we also have a separate founding member mastermind group that I'm going to be starting next week. That's going to be a group where we're going to have basically accountability and community for people who are really wanting to invest in their freelancing career. So those are kind of the different offerings that we have. But
Uh,
the things that I'm really excited about is that I think that no matter where you are in your freelancing career, if you just want to like come in for our free like class on Sunday and just be like, okay, freelancing, what are the foundations that I maybe need to brush up on or I don't know very much about? And then when you're ready to take a leap and start applying to jobs, then we have the job board. So I'm trying to kind of create a path for anybody, no matter where they are in their freelancing career, they can just dive in and start to get paid for their writing.
where do you run these classes? What platform?
Zoom. Yeah, Zoom is the workhorse. Like Zoom is great. Since the pandemic,
Mm.
favorite platform. Before that, nobody knew what, video conferencing was. And my clients would be like, okay, Skype, I guess. But I feel like Zoom is where the cool kids go.
Okay, so you basically send an email to your paid subscribers and tell them, hey, I have a class for you as part of your membership. Here's the Zoom link. Come jump and take the class. And,
Yeah, and the cool thing is that we're going to start to be bringing in some guest instructors. So like another thing that's huge as a freelance writer is your website. And I know that the tricky part is like, okay, but if I have a website, if do I need to hire a website designer or like I think I'm ready to hire a website designer, like who do
okay.
I hire? Right now, we're going to be bringing in a Squarespace designer for one of our future classes to share like the kind of like the fundamentals of what you need for a website in terms of SEO and design. And then we're hoping to get a discount specifically for our subscribers for web design. So we have things like that in the works that we're planning that haven't been announced yet, but that we're really excited for to help bring more value to our subscribers to help people get what they need to get all of the foundations that they need for their freelancing business and help with their branding.
Mm. So I think I knew about you through LinkedIn, because I'm active there. So when you do you have a funnel that moves people between LinkedIn to Substack, or like where are you putting most of your energy these days? Like what is the top of your funnel?
Yeah, so my partner Kyle was able to set up like a whole separate like a LinkedIn page for the Substack. And I didn't know this, but Substack, you can have an RSS feed that just like shares your Substack posts immediately automatically to LinkedIn. And I had no idea that was possible.
Ah,
It's great. It's great. And so I recommend if you have a Substack and your community is on LinkedIn to have a separate page for your Substack that you can create subscribe buttons for so people can subscribe to you on LinkedIn without them punishing you for sharing links. Because I know that they always like are downgrading posts with links on them. And then it'll automatically share your RSS feed, and that's LinkedIn approved. So that's the top of
oh
funnel thing that
wow.
I think is really useful that most people don't know about, especially because
I
LinkedIn
didn't
is like
know.
yeah, a lot of like
Yeah.
LinkedIn are writers like wanting to share what they're up to, and there's a big writer community on LinkedIn. So that's really helpful. And then we like post on like X and things like that. And yes, Joe, I will work on a post on the RSS feed with Kyle, and I meant to say hi to you earlier. Because yeah, that's the RSS feed stuff is super helpful, and Kyle's like a genius for setting that up. And so there's so many like little things like that that I've like learned
Uh,
along the way, and then I'm like, I gotta like sit down and like write a post about this.
I had no idea because what I've been doing is I would take it manually and then I post it on the LinkedIn newsletter that I have on LinkedIn. And then I would say this post was originally published on Substack, subscribe to blah, blah, blah. So I've been doing it manually. And sometimes like I get lazy or I forget. So I don't post all the posts from there, but it's good to automate it. One of the things that I love about what you do is I kind of stole that idea, steal like an artist a number of times, which is from the desk of Amy Suto, where you put what you're doing every day. And I found that fascinating. How do you like you divide your time? And I think that's really helpful for very freelance. Not, I mean, somehow like I I don't like that term freelancer. Sorry. I like to like not solopreneur, but for me, I'm more of an authorpreneur or a writerpreneur than a freelancer because the freelance part is just one very like a small part of the big equation. There's the strategy, there's all of that. But anyways, so I really love that and to see how you divide your time between like working on a client project, then trying to work on your newsletter, and so I just wanted to say that I found that's very helpful.
Thank
And
you.
um, okay, so we have few minutes left, and I wanted to talk a bit about your books. How are you promoting them? And because my understanding, you also just published a fiction one, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and before I jump onto that, just want to say hi to Kelda and say thank you for dropping in the chat and good luck on your full-time freelancing journey. That's awesome. But yeah, to jump to the books, I have published three books at this point. So my first book was Six Figure Freelance Writer that I published 2 years ago. I will be revamping it slightly and adding some more to it soon, but pretty much like it's a pretty evergreen with all the concepts of how to become a six-figure freelance writer and build your portfolio and set your rates and all of those basics. And then last year, I published a book called The Nomad Detective, which is a series of short stories inspired by my journeys as a digital nomad. And then this last February on Valentine's Day, I came out with my first romantasy book called The Ash Trials, which just was so much fun to write. And it's like the response from readers has just been really lovely. And then currently, I'm working on my next book that is coming out in January, and it will be about the next phase for freelancers on how to scale their business from six figures to seven figures. And the official
Ah,
announcement for that will be coming out soon.
I will be definitely getting it. Do you self-publish?
Yes, I believe in self-publishing is the future, especially because I was in this
Mm.
Oakland bookstore earlier this year and I was walking through the shelves and I noticed a bunch of self-published books that are very popular sitting on the shelves right next to books that are traditionally published. So the way that
Ah,
readers are buying self-published books and traditionally published books are identical in terms of the reader experience. And so why if the reader experience is the same, why would you as a writer not want to be a self-published author and keep the royalties, not have to answer to a publisher who may not have your best interest in mind. And that way you can keep more of the royalties and have, even if you have a smaller audience, make more from your writing and be able to have total control over your books and your world. And the nice thing with self-publishing is that you don't have to pay upfront to print a bunch of books. It's print on demand publishing, where the books get printed for you and you don't have to worry about shipping or anything. So I will eventually write more about self-publishing, but I think it's what all authors will be doing in the future. And because I just think it's so much more accessible than it's ever been before.
mm. Do you have a team that you hire to help you, like an editor, or cover designer, or typesetter, or do you do the whole thing yourself?
Yes, definitely work with an amazing team on different parts. So I hired line editors, proofreaders, cover designers, interior formatters. But even if you're a writer who wants to do it all yourself, the tools have gotten really good where you can download platforms like Atticus, or the one that I use is Oh, it's not Luma, but it's something else that the name is escaping me from right now. It's the Mac version of Atticus. There's a bunch of really great tools for setting the book and the typeset the way that
Ah,
you want it
yeah.
to
Is
look.
it
Yeah.
something with W? Like, well,
No, Vellum. Vellum. That's one it is.
Vellum.
Vellum
Yeah,
is great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Many people told me about it. And I was wondering if that would like replace hiring a typesetter if you do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Okay,
did. I
okay.
typeset my own book for the Nomad Detective with Vellum, and I think it turned out great. And so they have a good like templates and stuff to add the little flourishes, and you can do a lot of editing. It's very easy. If people know how to use Scrivener, Vellum is easy because Scrivener can be hard.
Oh my God, Scrivener. Uh,
I know. I just
what,
saw like a
what
PTSD flashback in your eyes.
Scrivener? I mean, it's the idea is great. They just have to make it more user friendly. Um, okay, where do you sell books the most? I'm curious because I just published my novel last week on my birthday, my second novel. And I've been doing an experiment, which is the TikTok shop, and I'm getting some success, which is I've never kind of considered that, but I set up my own shop, you know, with my own LLC, and they asked for so many paperwork, my passport, whatever, and it's and somebody was saying that this is kind of the future of independent publishing through the TikTok shop. I'm just curious, is how are you selling your books and where has been like the most success for you?
Yeah, I'm a little basic. I only sell on Amazon, but I'm going to be expanding to Barnes& and Noble and other retailers soon. Mostly because Amazon KDP is the easiest platform to figure out, and I haven't branched out. But there's so many platforms. I think it's super smart for you to use TikTok Shop. And congrats on your second book, by the way.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And so I think that those are really smart ways. So I'm definitely still learning all of the distribution channels, but um, right now I just use Amazon and that's been easy. But I think there's so many options for people that are like there's a lot of really cool ways and ways that you can get into bookstores more easily by getting on Ingram Spark and things like that. So
Yeah.
there's like a whole rabbit hole with this.
Yeah, I know, I know. Well, Amy, this been wonderful. I mean, I want to chat for you for another hour, but I know you're busy, and I have to pick up my son from summer camp. See, so I don't want to leave him stranded. But this been amazing, and for anyone who's watching us, I would highly recommend subscribing to Amy's newsletter, the paid one. It's worth every penny, and thank you again, Amy, for joining me and accepting my invitation. Anything else you would like to say before we conclude? Any last parting words?
Yeah, no, I'm just really excited for to continue to help freelance writers make writing their job and getting jobs on our writing job board. You can go to makewritingyourjob.com for that, and really excited for everybody. We have free trials and things like that for anybody who wants to come in and just take a look at the. We publish like over 100 writing jobs, contests, residencies, everything that writers could ever want on our newsletter. We do it twice a week now, but we're about to switch to daily. So we have a lot of really cool stuff for writers.
Oh wow, I'm excited. I like read every single newsletter you said. So
Oh,
keep
awesome.
keep it going, and thank you again, and thank you for the 61 people that joined us live today. This is great. I think this is a record for my lives. Usually like sometimes 20, 30, but many people will join later on after I send this, and you'll get also a copy of it and you can distribute it. And yeah,
Definitely.
and thank you very much. Wish you the best of luck, and we'll stay in touch definitely via all the social channels.
Thank you so much, Natasha, and have a great day. And thanks for having me.
Of course. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.